Good day, CCF fam. I'm Michelle Obligacion from Exalt Ministry, and with me is our dearest pastor, Pastor Peter Tanchi, to answer some of our questions for Sunday Fast Track. Hi, Pastor Peter.
Hi.
All right. So, for our first question, how can we trust God's sovereignty in the midst of overwhelming adversity? Is it possible to truly be grateful to God when we are at a loss?
Do you notice the Bible keeps telling us, in the midst of adversity, like James 1, consider it pure joy when you encounter various trials. Do you know why? When everything is going well, there's no opportunity to trust God. It's when things that are not going well, and God is saying, now, will you trust me or not? And the outcome is dependent on how you respond. Remember Romans 8:28. God causes all things to work together for good. On what condition? To those who love Him. To those who are called according to His purpose. So in the midst of adversity, you need to make this your anchor. That God loves you. He's allowing bad things to happen. Why? It's a better plan.
Amen. That's a deliberate choice on our part to really trust God. The second question is, though we may not understand it, God's ways are always good, always higher than our ways. But how can we accept God's will without questioning His ways?
Do you know, I always tell people, it is not enough to do God's will. You have to do God's will, God's way, God's timing, to have His best. Example, God's will. It's always good to, example, to be polite to your parents, to be loving, to speak the truth in love. That's God's will. Speak the truth in love. What is God's way? You be polite. Imagine you talk to your parents. Dad, God's will is for me to correct you. You are wrong. That's not God's way. God's way is humility, truth plus love. So God's will plus God's way. God's way comes to maturity. You will grow. Because I have learned about God's way. You know, for me it's patience. Be more patient. I can do God's will, but wrong time. Not God's way. I try to make things happen. And God is saying, Peter, please relax. And I learned that this week. That's another story I'll tell you about patience.
All right. Thanks for that, Pastor Peter. And for the last question, why is it important to live a life of humility and not to boast in response to God's saving grace?
Because God gave us an amazing warning and promise. God is opposed to the proud, gives grace to the humble. So why should you be humble? Grace. I need grace. The Christian life is impossible. I need His power. I need His grace. But He made a promise. I will oppose the proud. So I don't want to be proud. And sometimes you only learn humility when you are encountered opportunities to show humility. If not, you will be humiliated.
That's right. And so thank you, Pastor Peter, for answering our questions. And that's it for Sunday Fast Track. God bless you.